After Jerome Powell signaled 3 rate cuts in 2024, the market has been going up like never before. A lot of stocks that we talked about, and many others have been going up a lot. A lot of dividend stocks, commodity stocks, and many others. And it's becoming harder and harder to find opportunities to buy in the stock market if you have any cash. And I always promise you guys that I will do my best to find these undervalued opportunities, as I personally focus on stocks outside the Magnificent Seven, stocks that most people never heard of. This is where you tend to find buying opportunities whenever the market is going up. And in this video, I'm gonna do an update on a stock that I talked about before. It was pretty much a bargain, around $4.50, now sitting around $5 per share. And to me, it's still one of the most undervalued stocks, if not the most undervalued stock in the stock market. And this stock is called Sandstorm Gold. Some of you watched my videos before, and you pretty much, I'm known for talking about this stock because we traded it many times. I talked about, buying it below $5 and selling it above $5.50. We've done that like 2 times on the YouTube channel, and some of them also in my own, investment group if you're interested in joining. But a lot of you, sent me something funny on Sandstorm. One person on Twitter, and he said that Sandstorm was pretty much a steal at $4.50, and he's gonna get arrested, because the price is just so cheap. It was pretty funny, and some of you realized how cheap Sandstorm was at $5.50 per share. But even then, now at $5 per share, Sandstorm is still extremely undervalued, and I see up to a triple in the share price over the next 5 years if everything goes perfect. Now, in terms of Sandstorm, this is a royalty company. Some of you know what a royalty company is. It's not like the producers, like something like Barrick Gold and Newmont. They don't really produce the gold. They have the royalties, the lands, and something like Barrick Gold drills and get all the gold on the land of something like Sandstorm. Sandstorm finance some of their projects. They do a lot of things for them, and Sandstorm gets royalties and streams from the producers or the miners like Barrick Gold, Newmont, and many others. So therefore, Sandstorm does not incur any capex expense. Sandstorm does not have to put up the mine and do all these things. Barrick Gold does all that stuff, and Sandstorm collects the royalties in the process. They have over 40 cash flowing assets and over 230 royalties from many different places. Some of them are still developing, and it's a very diversified company that own many trophy assets around the world, especially in the United States. Gold currently makes up 49% of their revenues pretty much. 21% is from silver, 20% from copper, and 10% from other kind of metals. Over the long term, they are trying to get more into gold. 73% gold, 7% silver, 14% copper, and 6% from other metals. So you also get exposure to copper and silver, more industrial metals and stuff, which are very important. Recently in 2023, they did a spin-off called HCU. This is Horizon Copper, and it's pretty much a spin-off from Sandstorm Gold. To me, it was not necessary, but Sandstorm owns 34% of Horizon Copper, and Horizon Copper goes and pretty much, it's like a royalty company, but only for copper, where they acquire other royalties, and then Sandstorm gets a piece of that, 34%. So and Sandstorm finance the projects for Horizon Copper. So it's a pretty interesting spin-off. It has not been performing well, and I say I'm just not a big fan of it, but this is what they did. And Sandstorm also has many kind of growing assets that haven't been producing free cash flow. This is because the mine has been built. One of the most popular one is Hod Maden. This is pretty much a trophy property. Once it's built, the only problem is with a lot of these kind of projects is they keep delaying, whenever the mine will be up and running. Hod Maden was like in 2025, and now it's pretty much in 2027, but it's a pretty amazing asset once it's finished, pretty amazing stuff. So this is where the growth in Sandstorm is gonna come in the future whenever these mines are up and running. This is why they currently produce 95,000 ounces, and they expect peak production to be at 125,000 ounces without them having to acquire any new assets or any new royalties and stuff. This is just from these mines that haven't been built yet. And once these mines are up and running, then the production is going to increase. Therefore, the free cash flow of Sandstorm is going to increase. Now, this is the best part about Sandstorm Gold. And I'm going to show you a little bit later on in terms of valuations. But normally, whenever you have a royalty company like Sandstorm that has 40 to 50% net income margins, that has very little risk because it's not incurring any capex expense, it does not, kind of produce the gold, it doesn't require any major costs, the cost per ounce is very, very low. So it has a much higher margins than a typical gold company. And because of that, they tend to trade at a premium at 20, 30, and 40 times free cash flow. Now, this is something I want to show you with Sandstorm. Sandstorm in 2023 is making around $160 million of free cash flow based off $1,800 an ounce. Now, the share price, the gold price, is around $2,000 an ounce. So it's much more than $160 million of free cash flow. But I'm just using this number to be conservative and to show you how cheap this company is. And then I'm going to tell you why is it actually so cheap. With $160 million of free cash flow and the market cap of around $1.5 billion, this company is trading around 9.5 times free cash flow. So around 9 times free cash flow on $1,800 an ounce. Now, if you count it on $2,000 an ounce, it's likely something around 8 times free cash flow. So this company, pretty much on a base case scenario, is trading around 9 times free cash flow, which is extremely cheap. And if you compare it to other companies in the space, something like Triple Flags, which Triple Flags is more similar in terms of the size to something like Sandstorm, Triple Flags is trading at 41 times free cash flow. Something like Wheaton Precious Metals, which is a much more premium and high quality royalty company, is trading at 91 times free cash flow. Something like Franco-Nevada is trading pretty close, if I remember, 25 to 27 times free cash flow. And Sandstorm, with all these assets, is only trading around 8.5 to 9 times free cash flow. Now, if the multiple just normalized, it just doubles, and it's still much cheaper than something like Triple Flag, than something like FNV. If the multiple just doubles and it just normalizes, the stock is going to double, and the multiple is nowhere close to where something like Triple Flags or something like Wheaton Precious Metals is, and this is excluding any potential, more acquisitions or any potential more increase in production. So the multiple is beat up very, very much. And paying 8.5 to 9 times for a royalty gold company, this is like buying a speculative miner in Zimbabwe or in some kind of, high risk jurisdiction. But you're buying a royalty company for 8.5 times, and most people don't really understand what kind of an amazing bargain and how rare this actually is. Now, this bargain exists for one simple reason, and it's not a simple one. And this is mainly the CEO, Nolan Watson. And he has pretty much destroyed the company. I always say that he's a very bad CEO, and he's still in charge. And you might say, why would you invest in a company with bad management? Why would you trust him now? How do you think he changed? Well, he pretty much, as I said, kind of destroyed the company. If you look at the shares outstanding, they went from 76 million to 234 million. He's been diluting stock a lot to do a lot of acquisitions to grow Sandstorm. But the biggest thing that freaked out the market lately in 2022 was him doing around $1.1 billion of acquisitions without notifying investors. And he pretty much surprised everyone with that. And then they suddenly announced $1.1 billion of acquisitions. Most of it was through debt and mainly diluting stock. The market freaked out. Investors sold. The stock went to like $4 and something per share. It was sitting around $6.50 or $6. And everyone freaked out because it was a massive, massive surprise to everyone. And then they asked him, why didn't you tell us beforehand that you intend to dilute stock or issue shares to do acquisitions? And he mainly said that his mentor before, like years and years ago, taught him that you should surprise investors whenever you do something like that, because if you don't surprise them and you tell them beforehand, some people might sell out and then you get a lower price whenever you're trying to issue shares. And that makes sense, but communication is key with shareholders, and he realized that. He apologized and he said he's going to work better on communication. He says there's no more dilution over the next 2 years, no more acquisitions. He just wants to focus on paying down the debt and doing everything, the right way, buying back some stock, paying down the debt, keep paying the dividend. It's not too high, like 1.7 or 1.8%. I believe it's a little bit more than that right now. But this is what he's focused on doing. And as you could see on the, something like the investor relations page, you could see that he's trying to do frequently asked questions videos. And then you could send him a question, he'll answer it to you. You call him, he'll answer your calls. You send him an email, he's going to reply to you. So he's trying to earn the trust of shareholders and of investors again. And this is the key for for Sandstorm to outperform and for the multiple to double. And even if it just doubled, it's still like 50% lower than most royalty gold companies. This is how much upsides there is, and this is how much people don't trust this CEO. But if he stays consistent like he's been, paying down the debt, paying the dividend, buying back stock, not doing any acquisitions, not diluting anything, being honest, communicating well, maybe the market is eventually going to trust him and they're going to be more confident about him. And once this changes, Sandstorm will likely re-rate to a much higher level than something like $5 per share. I mean, I would say much more above $10 per share, close to $15 per share, even especially if they do some more acquisitions using debt and not using, just something like diluting stock. The company does have, a lot of debt. They have something like $456 million of debt, but against it, they have $230 million of loans that they did loan to other kind of gold miners, and then they collect very high interest on them. They borrow them to, do CapEx spending, and Sandstorm gives them the funding. So in total, net debt is something like $220 million, which is really not high at all for a company that's doing 160, 170 million every year in terms of free cash flow on 1,800 an ounce. But Sandstorm is paying down this debt. I think the debt will be fully paid off by 2026. It's not showing up in this presentation, but it did show up in the previous one, and I can't personally find it. But they're also doing some non-essential asset sales for them to be lowering the debt. So the debt is not really a big concern at all with something like Sandstorm. If you look where it's pretty much trading at, it's trading right at tangible book value per share. So trading at 1 time tangible book value per share, all the assets minus all the liabilities, it's trading at 1 time. I mean, this company is extremely undervalued. I think it's one of the most, if not the most, undervalued stock in the stock market that most people have not heard of. But a lot of you might get frustrated holding the stock. I did it many times. I've been in and out of the stock many times, and I talked about it because normally it has a very predictable pattern. It goes below like $4.90. It doesn't stay there for long. Then it jumps to $5.50, 20, 30% in like 1 month or sometimes 2 months, sometimes in 2 weeks. But lately it's been below $5 for a while, and it needs a lot of patience if you want to wait to $10 or $15 when the market changes their mind. So it's not for everyone. You must have a lot of patience. You must know what you're doing. But this was pretty much my honest opinion on Sandstorm Gold, which I believe is very undervalued. It was not financial advice, just my opinion. Thank you so much for watching the video. I really hope you enjoyed it. So if you did, please press the like button and maybe consider subscribing. So I hope to see you in another video.